Meanwhile, the Uganda Coffee Development Authority says it hopes the European Union-African Union Summit addressed trade barriers and other challenges African commodities face in the European market. It comes as the EU-AU Summit of leaders and top government officials aim to strengthen trade ties between Europe and Africa. But coffee-producing African countries routinely say Europe has unfavorable trade terms with the continent, which they say prevents African producers from moving up the value chain. Dr. Lyamulemye Nyibigira is the managing director at the Ugandan Coffee Development Authority. He tells me via Skype that the European market imposed high tariffs on roasted coffee exports, which he says forced African producers to export raw beans.
Since 2014, 2015, we have had a tremendous growth in the coffee production and exports, and largely because of three factors. One, politically, the government instituted a program of providing free seedlings to the farmers. From the political perspective, His Excellency the President has been emphasizing the importance of income generation at household level, and the target His Excellency has been emphasizing is 20 million Uganda shillings per household per year, and with the coffee, this is really largely accessible. The third factor has been very good weather conditions.
The EU-Africa Summit often talks about trade among other mutual interests, but coffee-producing countries, including Uganda, have expressed concern about the European market not being too favorable to African commodities, including coffee. What are your expectations about future prospect of having the European market open to African commodities, especially Ugandan coffee and other coffee-producing countries on the continent?
So one of the concerns we would like to have with the is to remove all these barriers to value-added coffee. We see our exports, for example, to Germany. Germany has 17% tax on roasted and value-added coffee. It's largely almost all the European countries, including Switzerland, Belgium. So if we are going to have a real trade, those barriers of having only green coffee, which they add on value and the export, we should be talking about the removal of all these barriers of exporting value-added, both green coffee, value-added coffee, soluble coffee, and all the coffee byproducts. Therefore, we need to have such a kind of open and mutual discussion about exports in that form.
But do you see them waiving those fees? Because it will cost them revenue, you know?
The trade is screwed in a different direction. The European countries want to have raw materials from Africa. It's time for us to have our own industrialization as Africans, and therefore export all forms of products. We can have all the products agreed upon, agree on the tariffs, if any, but coffee is a product for many African commodities. 25 countries in Africa are producing coffee, and most of that coffee is ending up in Europe. And I think we need to have a frank and open discussion on terms of trade. We are looking at a commodity that is so democratic. Coffee touches many of the Uganda's livelihoods. It contributes between 11 and 17% of the export revenues, and therefore this is a commodity that if we are going to be in the real market, in the real boardroom of discussion, should be on the agenda.
I understand Uganda wants to diversify towards the Middle Eastern market. What is the plan? And don't you think you might face some headwinds, just like you are facing in the European market?
On the contrary, the discussions we've been having with the Middle East countries has been very, very positive. Right now, we are attending the Dubai Coffee Expo, Dubai Expo. We've just had discussions with many of the players the last 5 months or so. And coffee is one of the commodities we are discussing to fill in that market. And the discussion we have is open, both green coffee, roasted coffee, instant coffee. There are no tariffs which have been imposed on our coffees.
What about building a local coffee culture? Because I know local consumption regarding Uganda's coffee is really low. How do you plan on doing this? Because it will be beneficial to Uganda's economy that the farmers will also accrue some profit or revenue from local people consuming their product.
I entirely agree. If we are going to think about trade, we first have to think about the domestic market, and this is the direction which the government is looking at. We have a strategy for domestic coffee consumption. We have started on with the youth at universities and the higher institutions of learning, where we sensitize the youth about the benefits of drinking coffee, the health benefits, but also coffee as a product which can be a source of livelihood.
Dr. Emmanuel Lyamulemye Nyibigira is the managing director of the Ugandan Coffee Development Authority. He spoke with me from the Ugandan capital, Kampala.